Good afternoon, Alex. How's it going?
All good, all good. Good afternoon. Thanks for
Good
asking. How are you? I
afternoon.
mean, we've been seeing each other since 9 a.m. today, so
Yeah, I know how you are. So thank you for putting on a brave face. But it is a beautiful day in London today, so we must celebrate that.
yes, indeed.
Um, okay, well, maybe before we get stuck into the questions, I'll make it clear to everybody that we're still working through the list of everything that we've collected, but we're getting close to the bottom. But we'll keep this funnel open for any questions that the community's got, either commenting directly on the Twitter, in the Discord, to the mods, or kind of any other way. But we're going to keep this dialogue ongoing. So at any stage, if you have a question, there's somewhere that you can escalate it and we'll get to it. And without further ado, let's get started. I can see we got quite a few questions submitted by Coin Connoisseur. So thank you for your attention and your interest. I'm going to start with the first one. So given the institutional focus, e.g. MiCA compliant expansion in 2027, 2028, what regulatory risks do you see in Brazil or globally? And how does Rails differentiate from RWA peers like Ondo or Centrifuge in attracting more partners beyond XP and NimoFest?
Yeah, no, thanks for the questions. And so so the regulatory landscape has been changing a lot. I mean, I'm sure everyone's aware of this. The way this normally works is that the regulatory rules in US, they kind of drive the rest of the world. Also Europe, but it's been mostly US because the markets, the financial markets in the US, they're so big, so deep. Everyone kind of tends to follow whatever happens there. And so MiCA is the regulatory framework in the EU, okay? And the thing is, why this matters is because Rails, on the one hand, we of course have a big interest in kind of people, day-to-day people, retail as we call it, and just normal Web3 people, like myself even. We also have this other side of or this other arm of Rails, which is very much focused on banks, financial institutions, and any kind of financially or financial institution that is regulated, right? So regulated by financial authorities. And so the thing is that these financial institutions, they cannot break the rules. I cannot stress this enough. Like sometimes people ask, oh, why doesn't the bank do this? Why don't they do that? It's because of many times they just can't do it. They wanted to do it. People inside of the bank, they really love blockchain. They like to work with it. But if a regulation says you cannot do it, then they cannot do it because they don't want to go to jail, and they don't want to be fined and so on. And so this is the reason why it's so important. And so in Brazil, the way that it works is you have the Central Bank of Brazil, which regulates part of the market, and you have CVM, which is kind of like the Brazilian SEC, let's say, that regulates the other part of the market. They tend to be quite friendly, and they tend to kind of try and do roughly what the US and a mixture of what US and Europe are trying to do. And so recently, what's been happening is that, this week even, the SEC and the CFTC, which are the two biggest agencies that regulate financial markets in the US, they finally, I even tweeted about this yesterday, they finally came up with a joint kind of framework for deciding which tokens are securities and what are not securities. And so there's explanations about stable coins and this and that. And the reason why this is so important is because in the past, our clients, the banks and the financial institutions, they couldn't touch these things because when it's not regulated, it's too risky for them. And so now this has been changing, right? So now these institutions now have a clear rule book of how to do things so that they don't break any rules and there's not going to be fines and so on. In Rails, the way we deal with this is we have since the beginning, Rails has had this privacy, what we call the privacy node. So again, Rails has the public chain. We just launched the testnet this week, by the way. I mean, I wanted to mention this before we start, Tom, but anyway. So we have the testnet of the Rails public chain now running the Axial consensus algorithm, which is something that we have built in-house. super sophisticated. It can deliver a lot of advantages. We can take like 5 minutes in a moment to talk about that. But we also have the privacy nodes, which are basically kind of mini Ethereum blockchains that banks can install in their own environment. Okay. And this is why we've been so successful so far with some of these clients that Coin Connoisseur mentioned, like NemoFast and XP and Amphi and so on, is because we have these privacy nodes. If a bank is concerned that, let's say they want, or a financial institution, they want to launch a token, and if they're concerned about if it's going to be regulated, what kind of rules are we breaking, how can we do this, then they can launch it on the Rails privacy node because it's risk-free, okay? And they can do it and do it internally, and they always have the option to then bridge some of these tokens to the public chain. So this is something that Rails has, which is quite unique. Um, and someone, so the question also mentions Ondo, Centrifuge. Ondo and Centrifuge, they are more on the kind of application side of things, because Rails is an infrastructure, project. Like I say, we have these different blockchains, privacy node and public chain. These are infrastructure layer things. Ondo now mentioned they're going to launch a blockchain as well, but primarily Ondo and Centrifuge, they are applications that you install on top of a blockchain. It's different. So much so that we in Rails, we've been in discussions with both of them and also others for them to deploy on Rails, in Rails, in the Rails public chain and on the private chain as well. So we don't really compete as such with Centrifuge and Ondo and others. I think more so that we probably can partner with them. We offer some unique advantages, because of the privacy node, like I mentioned, in this changing regulatory landscape, which could be quite interesting for them. Yeah, I think what we can bring to the game for them, even like if I am Centrifuge and I'm watching this, then I'm gonna be thinking, one of the things Centrifuge always wants is more origination. Origination means you need to find institutions that are willing to tokenize new things. This is very hard to do. And this is one of the things that we excel in doing. NemoFast, XP, Fire, some examples of financial institutions that have already told us that they will tokenize, billions and billions of dollars in our chain. This is what we call originators. And of course, Centrifuge and Ondo would love to have those tokens there as well, because it's going to increase TVL and so on. So to finalize, I know it's a long answer to the question, but I think it's a very important question, this one, is that I don't think we compete with, Ondo and Centrifuge. I would love to have them as partners, and I would love to work together with them to help originate new deals and distribute those tokens to investors on Rails, because of the many advantages Rails has compared to other EVM blockchains.
Nice, very comprehensive. Okay, and we've got another one from Coin Connoisseur. They are asking about the pre-commit staking. So it's live. What's the minimum self-stake requirement for validators once full staking launches in April? And then how will APY be sustained long term?
Yeah, so okay, there's two parts to this question. The first part is, so the question is asking, just to clarify to everyone, there's two ways you can stake Rails token. You can either run a validator yourself, which this means it's a server, you need to, it's like a big computer, you need to kind of run the Rails validator software in it. And the thing about Rails is, because I explained in the last AMA, we need to make sure that we know who is running these validators, because the banks, the people that we're targeting, they need to know that their transactions are being validated not by a criminal, for example, or by like a sanctioned country. So especially in the beginning, we need to be very careful with this. And if you are a validator, right, if you have one of those servers, the software, you need to be staking RLS to even be able to run it. And so the question is asking, how much do they need to stake, to lock in their validator so that they can, validate transactions? And the answer is, we haven't yet disclosed this. it's going to be a significant amount, okay? Because the validators are going to be, it's especially in the beginning, institutions, and so it's you need a significant amount of RLS staked so that you can become a validator. This is not to be confused with the other type of staking that we have, which is called delegated staking. So this is if you have a small amount of RLS, by small I mean let's say less than 1 million RLS, then you can still stake, but the way you do it is you don't need to run a validator. You just take your RLS and you delegate it to an existing validator. So there's going to be a screen in the Rails website where you can go, you can connect your wallet, and you can then kind of select a validator from a list and then delegate your RLS to that one, and then you're going to get the yield. Okay, so the validator is going to validate the transactions and you're going to get the yield. So then the next part of the question is, okay, where is this yield coming from? So the yield is coming from the following. Every time, and now I'm going to jump into the tokenomics, okay? I kind of explained this in the last AMA, but I'll repeat a bit a part of it. So every time that a transaction is made, be it on the Rails public chain or the Rails private chain, this transaction has fees. You need to pay a fee to generate the transaction. This is how blockchain works. And this fee, then what happens to it is it gets converted into RLS. So if you paid in stables, for example, in the case of the public chain, the gas fee is paid in stable coin. So this stable coin then is converted into RLS. So we buy RLS from the market. I mean, the system does it, is all automatic. And half of this RLS is then burned, and the other half goes to what we call the security pool. The security pool is to pay the APY for the validators. Okay, so this is where it's coming from. And of course, in the beginning when we are starting, maybe we don't have enough transactions to pay a good APY, and so this is why the foundation is gonna also support it. So giving additional RLS so that we can pay an interesting APY to all participants, because this is important because we need to secure the network. The reason we have validators is so that the network is secure. When you are delegating your RLS to a validator, you're helping secure the network, and this is very important. And so this is why it's important that there's a decent APY. If you go to the pre-commit website right now, precommit.rails.com, you can lock your RLS and be part of the delegated validate staking group. Okay, there's still a bit of room. I think we're like 76% full right now with the pre-commit. So if you don't leave it for later because you're gonna be disappointed. If you have RLS, the minimum is 5,000. You can go to precommit.rails.com. You can lock your RLS and you can get in the queue. You'll be part of the validators of the stakers in the beginning, as soon as the mainnet launches, and you will make 50% APY in the first 3 months guaranteed. After that, the goal is to be around 20-30% APY. We will see, but like I say, in the long term, obviously what we want is for all the APY to come from the transaction fees. And so just to finalize on this question, because also a very important question, if you look at other blockchains, public chains, there's a very common theme, which is this: there is not enough fees being generated to pay a good APY. This is a problem, okay? So in some cases, the chain, they generate new coins with every block. Like, for example, Ethereum kind of works like this. It changed a bit now, but it worked like this before, and now it's a bit like this. So every block, you don't have an upper limit of how much ETH you can ever have, okay? And some other chains, I'm not going to give names here, but they have to keep minting new and new and new coins to pay the validators, because there's never enough being generated in transaction fees. The way that Rails is different is that, first of all, we have a max cap of 10 billion RLS. There can never be more than 10 billion RLS ever, and they have already been minted. Okay, so we cannot mint more RLS. No one can. All we can do is burn it, okay? And we will burn it. So this means Rails is a deflationary blockchain. So this is the first point. It's very important to understand. The second point is, even if we don't have enough transactions on the public chain to pay a good APY, don't forget, we make a lot of money from the private chains as well. So they also pay transaction fees. And in fact, most of the APY that, the money that we're going to be using to pay the APY initially is actually going to come from the private chains, because the clients of the private chains, they pay a monthly fee to be able to do transactions, and that is the money that we're going to use in the APY payment. And so, and now here I can mention another thing. Maybe Tom was planning to do this in a more organized way. We can do it later again. But on this Friday, so tomorrow, we're going to be finally launching the transparency portal. Okay, this is something that we've been working on for a while now. It's basically a landing page on the Rails website where you can go, and there will be a lot of information about the token, and we will keep adding more and more information. The goal is to be fully transparent. You can see all the Rails, the total supply and the current circulating supply, and the different smart contract addresses in the different chains, and even how much revenue we're making, and even how much of that revenue is related to transaction fees, because though that is the money that I just mentioned is going to be the money used to buy RLS, and then burn half of it and the other half to distribute to validators. So you guys will be able to see all of this in a very transparent way. And again, the portal is launching tomorrow. And we will be iterating on it. Every month there will be new charts and things and improvements, because the goal here is to make sure that everyone understands how Rails operates, where the money comes from, how much money we're making, revenue, this and that, and the tokenomics, and we want to see this working. Okay. Sorry, again, a long answer to a question, but it is because a very important question. That's why.
As we are talking about the roadmap and the next milestone, probably then we want to jump back and talk a bit deeper about Axel, because we launched that earlier this week.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be good if you could talk about the implications of the upgraded testnet, what that means and how it fits into the roadmap, and then we'll jump back into the questions again.
Yeah, and again, we have presented the roadmap, 2 AMAs, the first AMA, so 2 weeks before, and you can find it in our Twitter. And if you go to Rails Labs, Twitter X, then you can find it there. And we've been, ticking each item of the roadmap one by one by one by one. Okay, so like Tom mentioned, we launched Axel, which is our new consensus algorithm. I can talk about it. I'll talk about it a little bit now. But also, one of the items in the roadmap is the transparency portal that I mentioned we're launching tomorrow. So, we've been going one by one. So Axel is our new consensus algorithm. A consensus algorithm basically is a system that allows the different validators and nodes of the blockchain to talk to each other and agree on what is the current most recent version of the blockchain, and also to validate the transactions and make sure that everything is consistent. And there are many different algorithms. This is an active area of research. There are people that do their masters and PhD on this topic. And Ethereum uses a certain type of algorithm called Casper now. It changed, and each blockchain has a different algorithm. But the reason why this is important is, number one, it's very difficult to make one, because it's a very niche kind of knowledge. There's not many people in the world that know how to build a new consensus algorithm from scratch. Even if you try to use AI, the AI is going to get confused. It's complicated, because you're dealing with different nodes, and there's like network delays, and it's super complex, because if you lose if they get out of sync, then you miss blocks, and then the whole blockchain gets disrupted. So the point I'm making is we developed not only one but two consensus algorithms, just because we like difficult problems. And we put two teams not against each other, but in a way kind of competing with each other to see who'd finish first. So 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, we launched one of them called RBFT. We launched it as an open source, Apache licensed, fully open source system that people can just use whenever they want. It's in GitHub. You can go and check it out. And we will use it internally for some projects as well. But the second one is called Axel, and this is the one that is on testnet now. The testnet, by the way, was launched on this Monday. So you see, everything I'm talking about here is very recent, guys. There's lots of alpha we're giving here, because there's things that we didn't yet make public. But Axel, the reason we chose Axel for the public chain is because Axel has a few characteristics that make it very, very good for financial applications. First of all, it's validator, so delegated proof of stake algorithm, so DPoS. So it means you can, like I was saying before, you can take your tokens and delegate to another validator. This is quite cool. But also because with Axel, we can reach 15 to 20,000 transactions per second, and it's fully EVM. So this is a hard problem to solve, and I'm very happy with the performance. We will keep increasing this performance. This is version 1, okay? So there's many more ideas how I can make it even faster. And we have deterministic finality. So this means if you are a bank and you're sending, $100 million to another bank, you don't want to not know if it was final, if the transaction is final or not. And you don't want to wait 15 minutes to know if it's final or not. You want to wait maybe 1 second. And this is what Axel delivers, because we have deterministic finality in 1 second. So when you send a transaction 1 second later, it's final. You cannot, there's no way that's going to be a fork of the blockchain or anything like this. It cannot happen. And moreover, the block time, which is another parameter, very important parameter, is less than 1 second. In the case of Ethereum, is like 10, 15 seconds. And so this means you can, the blockchain is super fast, right? So you can send transactions in 1 second, it's there, you see it, it's final. And so we're very happy. There was a lot of work, very complex work, like I said, but now it's out there in the test net. Anyone that wants to test it, you can go right now. You can go either to our Twitter, in Rails Labs. You can find it. I think it's the third post from the top. You can see it's about testnet Axel. You can connect your MetaMask and start using it right now. Or you can go to docs.rails.com and click on the public chain link, and there's also instructions how to connect your MetaMask, the RPC endpoints and so on. And so that is about Axel and the testnet, and I don't know, Tom, if you want me to talk more about this, but just like, or do you want to follow up with the next question?
No, I think that's good, and I think you actually answered quite a lot of the questions in one of the questions from Coin Connoisseur anyway. So I'll jump on to his next one, I think, which is about beyond staking. How will programs like Rails Vaults and the referral system provide direct value to holders, and when can we expect their betas?
Yeah, so we have launched the token in December, as you guys know, and the mainnet is coming online in April. Okay, so next month, and we are a bit of an unusual blockchain, and in the sense that when we launched the token, we already had clients using the private chains. That's the reason why we launched the token. Because we had been in production, for example, with Nuclea since 2024. Right? And so we had the product operational. The only thing we didn't have was the public chain mainnet, which is what we're launching now. So we are a bit different in that way, because I don't know any other blockchain project that launched a token, and in fact launched the private chains before the public chain, right? Usually the way that the blockchains operate is they launch the public chain and the token so that they can then use the money from the token to then build the other things. We took another approach, right? So we built the other things first. We had clients, and then we launched the token and the public chain. So it's a bit of the other way around. And so that means up until the point where we had the mainnet, there wasn't much that people could do, really. Like you can buy the token, or you can hold the token, and you can sell the token. Basically, that's it. There wasn't usage in the first few weeks. But then what we have done is, because staking is coming online, we created a vault system so that people can lock their tokens and already start contributing to the network. Okay, because when you lock your tokens in the pre-commit vault, you're basically giving us a vote of confidence. You're saying, guys, yes, I will lock my tokens. I believe in you. I will help you with the staking. I want to secure the network. And so this was the first real usage of the token. And then, of course, when the mainnet launches next month, then there's going to be staking. So that's a real usage for the token, which is to secure the network. But also there's going to be governance usage. So there's quite a few decisions we need to make. Like, for example, we are going to start burning 50% of the fees from the gas fees. Like I said, we burn 50%. But eventually, we're going to have to change this 50%. Maybe it should be 30%, maybe it should be 40%. These kind of decisions we're going to pass through the community. So people that are staking RLS who have votes, and then you can vote on these decisions. This is one example of decision. There's going to be many other decisions to be made, and then people can be part of the community. Okay, so those are the two main use cases for the token. I think things are going to be much more exciting once we have the mainnet next month, because we launched in December, then there was the end of the year, the holidays and things, and people were not a lot of the people were kind of away, and so now with the mainnet launching, I think it's going to be very exciting. There's lots of news coming. Like I think you guys are seeing, like every week we're launching something new. There's a new client closing. There's a new, we announced MasterCard, the MasterCard partnership last week. Every week there's something new, either be it with clients or technology or like a new program or something. Okay, so we're going to be very active. So keep an eye on X, Twitter, because that's probably where we'll be announcing things first.
Nice one, thank you. And someone's also just commented about the news about MasterCard. So how exactly are we going to be collaborating with MasterCard, and what does it mean to be within this kind of cohort?
Yeah.
I guess also it's nice maybe to comment on the way that we're positioned versus other projects in that space.
So a lot of the work we do is about partnering with financial institutions and allowing them to start using blockchain. A lot of, like, for example, MasterCard is not the first time that they are doing some kind of blockchain project. And the thing is that so far it's been proven difficult for major financial institutions to really deploy a blockchain project in production, because a lot of the challenges that we see, like privacy, scalability, the interoperability, they haven't been really 100% solved yet. We believe that Rails solves them, but Rails is also, like, we just launched, right, the public chain, and so all these things, the pieces, they need to come together. So the work with what MasterCard has been doing is they have looked into the market and they have selected what they believe are the best, most promising projects to do with blockchain. So there are different categories. There are, like, blockchains, and there's dApps, there's different things, security and so on. It's in total 85 different projects that they've selected, which those are the ones they believe are the best. And they created this group to kind of start exploring putting things into production. Okay. We have a meeting. We're going to be meeting with them, many times, but we have a big meeting with them, next in 2 weeks' time, and we are going to be discussing, how to, get these things into production and so on. But also, I need to set expectations, because these financial institutions, it's different. If you have a small company and they announce something, maybe next week it's already operational. A lot of these projects with financial institutions, because there's regulation and there's many different aspects to it, different jurisdictions and so on, they tend to take a bit longer. So, the partnership with MasterCard is like a stamp of approval that we have discussed with them. We've gone through the project, with the program, and they have selected us alongside with the likes of, big projects like Repo and some others. And so it's a big stamp of approval. But to get things into production, it will take a few months, okay? But we are fully committed. We have our CEO, in fact, Marcos, he's the one kind of leading this. And we will do anything that we can to, get stuff into production, get stuff out there, usage of Rails, transactions, and so on, like we did with Nuclear, like we did with NemoFast, like we did with the Central Bank of Brazil, like we did with so many other clients. And we have built up a lot of experience with this. Yeah. And what was the other part of the question?
Yeah, it was just about the collaboration with MasterCard, what it means. Oh, I was also highlighting the way that we're positioned versus some other peers in the grouping, right, which I think is pretty favorable.
Yeah, I mean, we are quite unique. I like, when you have a company, you need to always try and find what people call the USP, is the unique selling proposition, okay? Because if you are just copying what other people are doing, then you're not leading anything, you're just copying. Sometimes in some companies, this can work, there are examples out there. You let one company figure out what's the best way to do something, and then you just go and copy. Like, for example, electric cars is an example, right? Tesla figures out how to do electric cars, and then now you have a bunch of others doing the same. But what tends to happen is the one that is the one leading is the one that is going to be kind of driving the decisions, and it tends to be the one that's going to have the biggest market share and so on. So it's important that we do things in our own way, the unique way, so that we have our own unique selling proposition. And so we will see if our way, the way that we've built things, is the way that is going to be the standard going forward. And so if you look at Rails and you compare, like, for example, let's take one example. I mentioned Ripple right now. I think Ripple, over time, they've built a lot of things. The blockchain itself got a lot of criticism in the past, but they have a strong team. They partner with a bunch of banks. They can do like cross-border effects and things like this. But if you look at the blockchain purely from a technology point of view, they have a public chain. It's not EVM compatible. Until recently, couldn't even do smart contracts. Now they have a stable coin, but they don't have the privacy nodes. So there's so many differences. The gas is paid in XRP. In our case, the gas is paid in stable, which is a requirement that we got from all the different clients, the financial institutions we deal with. So there's lots of differences between what we do and others do. If you make a big table, even comparing ourselves to, let's say, Avalanche or ZK Sync or Canton, those are the ones that we consider to be more of competitors of ours. Those are the ones that when we go into like a public tender or into a big financial institution that is choosing a technology, those are the guys we usually see. But if you do a big table comparing the features, we are quite unique, because like if you look at the speed we can reach on the public chain, the new Axel algorithm, the gas fee being a stable coin, the instant finality. I mean, it's less than a handful of, maybe not one that has all of this. And then you put also the privacy node into it. I mean, Rails is very unique in that sense. And now that we finally are launching the public chain, all the pieces of the puzzle are coming together. So I'm very excited about the things we're gonna be doing in the coming months with all these financial institutions. And maybe, Tom, now is also a good time to talk about hackathon because it kind of connects to this.
Yeah, why not? Please.
So, because I've been talking about how unique Rails is, yeah, unique selling proposition and so on. But the question then becomes, okay, you are unique, but so what, right? What can we do with this uniqueness? And so in 2 weeks' time, or actually in 1 week time, next week, a big team of Rails is going to go to Cannes, in France, where we're going to be, so the ETHCC conference, a big Ethereum conference, is going to be happening there. And we're going to be doing a hackathon. So there's going to be a bunch of people. We rented this big place. People are going to be sleeping there even. And the goal of doing these things is getting all these developers together and giving them Rails. We're going to give them an installation of the privacy node. We're going to give them access to the public chain. We're going to give them some testnet RLS. We're going to give them everything. We're going to give them full access to our team, our technical team, developers, Rails developers. We're going to give them all of it so that they can sit down and think, okay, now that I have this unique, infrastructure project, then how can we build something that is unique? Okay. And so this is what we're doing. So we're doing a cool hackathon and inviting a bunch of people. And it's gonna be we're gonna be filming it. We're gonna be generating content, and you guys are gonna be able to see it. And let's see what comes out of it. But we're gonna be doing more and more of this over time.
Okay, nice. And I wanted to, there was another good comment in real time actually, which is a critique of the governance voting. Given that most of the coins are in our possession, Hansen is saying that their voting will not make any difference. So how are we going to make sure that it's fair for the community to have a say in the governance of Rails?
Yeah, so okay, I think this is important to address. So there's two things, okay? One is it's so the coins, let's go back to the initial distribution. This is going to be actually visible in the transparency portal. The initial distribution of the tokens was like this: 50% was with the foundation, the other 50% was used to pay investors and initial developers and so on. But all of this is locked. Okay, out of the 50% from the foundation came the initial supply for TG, which is roughly 15%. Okay, so the foundation itself, it has more or less 35% of supply, but it's locked. You know, it has an unlocking schedule of 3 years, so the foundation doesn't have access to the tokens. And equally with the other 50% of the initial distribution that is with investors and employees and even myself and everyone, those are also locked. And it's even worse. It's the unlocking is over 4 years. Okay, so we don't have access to the tokens. There will be a moment in time in the future that yes, we will have access to the tokens, but it's a long way away still, right? And also it's very poor. It's not in the hands of the same person, right? Like I just mentioned, even the tokens that belong to the foundation, as they are getting unlocked, they're going to be used to pay yield for the validators, for example, right? So it's not like we are holding all these tokens. We're not like I don't my personal tokens. I don't have access to it, until like one more year into the future. So um, you know, I just wanted to clarify this because I think sometimes that people have this impression that all the tokens are circulating secretly. They're not. They're locked. They're locked. Okay. Now the second thing is in terms of the voting mechanism itself. A big fan of the quadratic voting mechanism that Vitalik mentioned some time ago. So this means if you have, say, one token, maybe you have one vote. But if you have 1,000 tokens, you do like the square of 1,000, and maybe you have like, I don't know, 10 votes or 20 votes, something like this. It's not exactly a square root. It's like there's a formula we can kind of come up with so that it's fairer, right? Because otherwise there could be one guy that has a lot of tokens and he can control all the votes. I don't want that. I want it to be as democratic as possible so that more people can come and vote. But of course, if you have more tokens, you have more votes, but it shouldn't be linear. It shouldn't be like you have a million tokens, then you have a million votes, because then I agree, you get into a situation where everything gets passed because the one that has the most tokens is gonna, determine everything. We don't want that.
Thank you for that one. So I'm going to jump back to the submitted questions to make sure we get through more of the ones that were submitted earlier. So this one was from NFT Social. Who exactly qualifies as a provider receiving payouts from the network security pool?
I have the impression we answered this question before, but I will answer again so that there's no confusion. If you want to know more about this topic, by the way, I wrote a blog post that I posted last week. If you go to Rails website, resources menu on the top, blog, you can read my blog post that explains it again. But basically what happens is this. The Rails security pool, you know what I was talking before, that the gas fees that are paid, they are gonna, become converted into RLS, Rails token. And this RLS, half of it is going to be burned. The other half is going to go to this security pool. What is the security pool? The security pool is the pool that is going to be used to pay the validators. It's very simple. Okay, so either the delegated stakers, not the validators. Okay, let me be very clear. Is that we're going to pay the stakers, including the validators. Okay, so if you are staking RLS, you will get yield. The yield comes from the security pool. Is it clear? So, and it's the fees that came from gas payments. These are this is the money that ultimately is going to be used to pay yield for all the stakers, including the validators, because the validators are also stakers. So if you take your tokens, let's say you have 1,000 RLS, and you delegate them to a validator, so you delegated your tokens, you will get yield, and this yield comes from the security pool, at least in part, because like I mentioned in the beginning, maybe there's not enough funds there to cover the APYs, so we may have to subsidize it with the treasury of the foundation, which is what the foundation is for anyway, so no problem.
Okay, great. I think you answered a couple of questions from the same person there, but there's one more that is left unanswered, which is what portion of network security pool payouts is realistically intended for external non-institutional validators or delegators?
Oh, like we're not going to differentiate. So is the system is programmatic, you know. So the way it works is, you know, if you are staking, it doesn't matter if you're institutional, individual, it doesn't matter. You get the same yield. Okay, the system doesn't differentiate. So to you as an individual, let's say, what matters is you put 1,000 RLS, and let's say the APY is 20%, then you will get over the course of a year, you will get 200 RLS extra. That's it, you know. And the money comes from this security pool, and it's subsidized maybe by the foundation initially, but that's it. And so, and the same applies if you are an institutional validator and you had to, I don't know, stake 1 million RLS. I'm just inventing a number here, okay? Then you will get 200,000 RLS after 1 year. Same thing, same APY, same everything. We don't differentiate. Everyone operates under the same exact rules.
Okay, and a fun live comment from Hanson here, which I think you will enjoy, is, to be blunt, the reason pre-staking hasn't reached its cap yet is the poor risk-reward ratio. The current APR doesn't justify the risks involved, especially when compared to Zama's more attractive staking rewards. Do you have plans to adjust the incentives?
Look, I love to receive feedback, guys. You know, if you have any suggestions, feel free to send on X, Twitter. I'm there. X10X Alex is my handle. We can look at it. I think I think people are under the impression that we wanted the pre-staking to fill up in like 2 hours. That was never the intention. The mainnet is launching in April, like I say, you know, and so we always were expecting that the pre-commit was going to be filled up until that point. And in fact, you know, we're still in March and it's 76% committed. I'm actually even worried because I was actually planning to use to mention the pre-commit again in some of my posts, and even in Cannes, you know, like I said, we have the hackathon in Cannes. I wanted to go to the developers that are going to be there and say, guys, you know, because some of the prizes are in RLS, and I was going to say, take this RLS and you can put in the pre-commit. And I'm actually hoping that the pre-commit doesn't fill up until Cannes. In after Cannes, if it's still not full, I'm sure that before the mainnet launches, it's gonna reach 100%. I'm not worried about that at all, actually. And by the way, just one more comment is that we chose an amount which is 100 million RLS. This is basically almost 10% of the total circulating supply. The circulating supply includes supply that is locked in, not locked, but it's deposited in exchanges, you know, supply that was used to pay maybe some partners, supply that is in the hands of market makers, all of it, you know. So 100 million RLS is actually a lot given the current circulating supply. So it's fine. I think it's going fine. I'm actually even surprised we reached 76% so quickly.
Yeah, and I would say if the risk reward ratio was poor, then it wouldn't keep increasing and be mostly fulfilled. I was actually suggesting we should go for a lower APY because I knew that it would be filled anyway. So, but it's useful feedback to know what this person thinks. I think this is all of the main questions. So I can see a couple of questions here talking about how we're going to use things like the roles and the cards, the community kind of status that we've created, and how we intend to do the next kind of round of incentives and rewards based on those. The truth here is that I want to make sure that the rewards are based on mainnet outcomes, on how people can engage with the vaults or engage with the business, engage with the token. So we're rebuilding this to be based on kind of attributable marketing activities of value. So we're going to come back with something a lot more solid, but it's going to be very much based around vaults and those kind of outcomes that we want retail users to be engaging with. So just continue to follow the space for more information, but we're not going to be doing activities to encourage any engagement farming activities. We want to really focus on the business outcomes.
So there's a comment here, very important, Tom, about not biting your fingernails.
Oh no!
You skipped this.
Is it my mum?
I don't know if it was me. Yeah, maybe your mom. I don't know. But I was, because I tend to do this as well, but I didn't think I did it this time.
I haven't had lunch. It's just all caffeine so far today, so I think that's the reason.
We're not feeding you.
Okay, nice. Is there anything else? Oh, it would be cool. Also at ECC, we've got this Institutions on Chain event. I'm sure people can see the link there. I think it's worth mentioning. Anyone else that's attending, we're going to have an event on the Sunday, the same place as the hackathon. We're very, we're quite bullish on bringing together the different audiences of Rails, so the developer world can see the institutional side. We can kind of bring those together, which is what Rails is all about. And if anyone wants to sign up, the Luma is on our Twitter. You can drop us a message if you think we should accept your application, but we are massively over subscribed on that one, but we're looking forward to it.
Cool. All right.
Oh. Thanks, Alex. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining. Thank you for the questions. We'll see you next week.
Bye.